right, I'll make the case for my first one. Kyle Kuzma. And it is a positive case. You guys were haters. I'm going to be a lover here. I don't know if I love $30 million, which is where the rumors are kind of circulating on him right now. But when you look at Jerami Grant, when you look at Dylan Brooks, when you look at some of the other guys who are maybe replacement options for whoever doesn't get Kuzma, I just think I would rather have Kuzma over pretty much all of them. Maybe Middleton being the only guy I might rather have, but not long term. He makes open threes, good finisher, improved mid-range shooter, good defensive rebounder, solid perimeter defender, 7-foot wingspan, all these things. He's had 2 really strong seasons, the year the Lakers won the championship and then this past season. And he's not old by any means, right? He's only 27, about to turn 28, yeah. So 4-year deal. You're getting him for really sort of his prime. I would go 25 million for this guy if it meant knowing I would get him in the building. And I think Indiana, Sacramento, any of the teams that we know need wings, even Houston, it sounds like they're a suitor. Chris Haynes had that a little more reasonable report in the latest thing he had. I'd be down with all of that. And he seems like a pretty laid back guy. He's never, had a problem with whatever his usage might be or anything. Everyone liked shots, but he was on a championship team coming off the bench. So I think I'd bet on it. I like Kyle Kuzma.
Can I give you a prediction?
Here. Yeah.
Kyle Kuzma is going to be the next John Collins contract.
Negativity.
That's my prediction.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I had him. You guys you said we got to have over and undervalue things, and yeah. I had Kuzma as being overvalued. He's the next John Collins contract. I am telling you, at whatever he was making last year, $14 million, it's a bargain. And everybody's like, yeah, we would really like to have Kyle Kuzma on our team, especially for $14 million on an expiring contract. If he signs a $25 million deal, my prediction is that deal will be in trade rumors within the year. I promise you that will be in trade rumors within the year. I like Kyle Kuzma. I think he's a fine player. But when you watch him, there's just eye test stuff. It seems a little empty to me. I want a little bit more. I don't buy it. I like the stats last year, but the Wizards stunk and somebody had to take shots and he was more than happy to do it. I don't know how he fits into a really good team. I'm not saying he can't do it, but I just think that I think it's just one of those kinds of things where he's a good player. He's not a $25 million a year player. And it's going to be one of those things where as soon as he signs that contract, just like with John Collins, as soon as he signed that contract, he was immediately getting shopped. It was immediate buyer's remorse, and it was yeah, we should probably trade this contract. We can't really build around this guy. So that's my prediction on Kuzma. Fine player, but he's the next John Collins.
Chris, it sounds we were texting about this. It feels like you're more on Wes's side than my side.
So one of mine is actually that I think one of mine that I want to make that case for is I would be more comfortable giving Grant Williams a longer term deal than I would Kyle Kuzma. I think Kuzma
yeah.
Well, number one, I don't know how you cover that series, Wes. I love that Grant Williams was willing to at least poke, not go in the locker room at a pair of sunglasses and say poke the bear and then just but he at least play he didn't do the Dylan Brooks thing. He actually just kind of went and got into it with Jimmy a little bit. I don't care. Whatever. Guys are gonna do that. I would rather a guy do that than not. Yeah, you're gonna lose sometimes and. It was okay, whatever.
The thing I didn't like about it was that the Celtics were up 12 when he did it, and it wasn't that. It wasn't oh my God, you poked the bear and see you guys lost that game because you made Jimmy Butler come back from 12. No, it's just easy to trash talk when you're up 12. It's easy to trash talk.
Sure.
Grant Williams is your friend at the bar who only picks fights with the drunkest guy at the bar. It's yeah, of course you're gonna kick his ass because he's wasted. It's not a real challenge.
Fair.
So
fair.
That's
fair.
To me.
That's fair.
Chris, make the case for Grant Williams because I'm a skeptic in the way you're talking about him. I loved Grant coming out of the draft. I think he's a really good player, but he doesn't do a ton.
But I think depending on where he gets and what the price, I think I'm building into the fact that the prices are going to be lower. And what I want him to do is be 6'6", be 240, be strong, defend, play multiple spots on defense, shoot threes, do handoffs. He doesn't need to do a lot to be successful. But he has a very important role, in what NBA teams do, and he can play a bunch. He can unlock different styles for you. A lot of teams would just be better for him. And Kuzma has had an evolution in DC that is more shot creation, more just getting shots up. Like the guy that you saw in LA, you'd have to work back to get there. To get there in a certain way. That I don't know if that's like a guarantee. Like this is a guy whose shot attempts, whose everything is just kind of really ramped up since he left LA. He scored 20 points for the first time in his career last year. Like I don't know if that he's gonna want to like scale that back from what he from what he was.
Yeah.
I just think Grant as a size bet, as a understands his role bet, as a strength bet. And like a little bit 3 years younger. I think I would just rather like invest if that's 15 to 18 versus 25 for Kuz. That's the bet I would make. I'd rather pay Grant and just have that than give Kuz like all the money in the world.
You know what the biggest difference might be that's almost kind of makes it even more simple? 34% from deep for Kuzma, 38% from deep for Grant Williams. I just think to pick a nit in my own thing, the one obvious bet that you would have to be making on Kuzma is that he can be closer to, the Lakers, not even the championship season, but the year after that, which was his best year. He shot 36% from deep. He shot 37% from deep his rookie year. He's just been very, very streaky and up and down as a shooter. And you have to bet that he can even out there. I think he's better in a smaller role than this year. So like I hear you completely on he's not going to be 20 points per game. His usage went up from in the 20s with the Lakers to 28 this past year. Like I don't think you want him to do that. But if you could bring him into, Indiana and have him play off of Halliburton, or Sacramento and have him be kind of the third guy off the Fox Sabonis two-man game, I think that's a solid role if he's making his threes. If he's not making his threes, Wes is right, and they're going to trade him the next season, the first season that they can.
If Washington brings him back, is that too many stars on one team between Jordan Poole and Kyle Kuzma?
Yeah.
Is there not enough basketballs?
Not enough balls. Yeah, they're going to need an offensive genius to come in and just get the talent to map out right, because that's just, it's too much in one building.
Yeah, it's a lot to handle there. Can I throw one other power forward at you guys? And then I have a question that I want to throw at you that kind of ties all these together. Overvalue Cam Johnson. And I like Cam Johnson. I think he's a fine player. Talking about three-point shooting, knockdown guy, 41% for his career from three. But that's it. He's an okay rebounder. He's not a playmaker. He's a little bit overrated as a defender, I think. People are like, oh, he's this big, versatile defender. I trust him guarding 1.5 positions, kind of. I just trust him guarding other sort of swing forwards that are his size. I don't trust him against really big guys. I don't trust him against smaller guys. I'm hearing stuff for like $20 million a year. That just seems like a lot. It feels like he's going to go back to Brooklyn no matter what, restricted free agent. Brooklyn pretty much has to bring him back because he was a big part of that Durant deal, but I don't know. That's another one of those contracts where it's like, yeah, Cam Johnson on a rookie scale contract, that's a lot of fun. $7-8 million a year, whatever he was making, that's good. $20 million a year just seems like a lot for Cam Johnson. So I want to ask you guys this. Between the four of them, based on what they'd have to get paid, and you're a team with just a blank amount of cap space, whatever, who would you rather pay? Kyle Kuzma, Grant Williams, Cameron Johnson, or Draymond Green?
Where can I ask like where exactly I am in my team building run? Like, am I like a title contender, or am I like a team trying to elevate?
I mean, so kind of.
Let's say you're the Chicago Bulls. Let's say you're the Chicago Bulls, and you get to sign any of those guys to the contracts that they're going to get on the market. And I'm giving you the random podcast exception.
Well, Draymond's last for the Bulls because like I don't like Draymond should be like on teams that have actual championship capability, and that Bulls team, no matter who you add,
the Sacramento Kings. They have $30 million of cap space. Maybe that's a better example. Like a team that's kind of on the brink of, and a little bit more versatility.
Draymond, in order, I would go Draymond, Grant, Kuzma, Cam Johnson.
I would probably go Draymond, Kuzma, Cam, Grant.
If I'm any team, I'd sign Draymond to whatever contract it is, $24 million a year, whatever it is, and I'm not signing any of those other guys to what the market is going to dictate. I'm just not doing it. And I know I have more. Most of my things are overvalues, and I guess that's gonna. I know that money has to go somewhere. Like somebody's got to get paid, and I just think that nobody's worth it, and that's going to be kind of my theme for this show. But, man, just these deals, like someone is going to pay them a lot of money, and we're already in a space where they're like, oh yeah, like we got the TV thing coming up, so these contracts aren't going to look as bad. We've already done this before, right? Like a bad contract is a bad contract. I don't care about the TV money.
Yeah. Chris, what do you think of Cam? Because I made the case against him on our last show. I think the injury stuff, and I think he's become an overrated defender. Where would you kind of slot him? I feel like maybe at one point you thought he was a Cavs option, but that's not going to happen anymore. He's going to make
the price. Yeah, the price is way too high. If he was like a year or two younger, I would feel like better about it, just because you would have like just more optimism in the upside of what was going to come. At the same, and it's like the injury stuff is just kind of hanging over this a little bit. But like I get it for certain teams. Like if you're the Pistons, like why not? It's very much like if you're a team that can absorb this kind of mistake if it doesn't work, then I think I'm okay with it. It's just I think it's dependent on what situations can absorb things that go wrong.
What about Detroit? Because we did a big segment talking through Detroit's offseason a few weeks ago, and it seems like they're the most likely team to get him if it's not Brooklyn. That feels like a team that can afford to swing and miss, because who else are they going to convince to come to Detroit? They have a bunch of space. They need a shooter. I think we talked through it when we did that segment, Chris. Like, you look at their on-off from last season, and it was, can you shoot it all? Then you're at the top of the on-off stuff for their offense. And even Alec Burks made a huge impact. He's a good player, but he's not usually at the top of your on-off chart. So Cam Johnson feels like a decent fit there, and that's kind of why I have backed off the full hate on it, because it's like if he lands somewhere that he makes sense and the money is a little irrelevant because their team is so young, I disagree with it less. But like Brooklyn, I honestly think it would be kind of a mistake, knowing that they have the flexibility to kind of dip back into the star pool again. I would be nervous if I'm Brooklyn bringing that much money on for Cam Johnson, who you're just going to probably be looking to trade him for a bigger player eventually. Mm-hmm. He's overpaid. You don't know what your team is right now. You don't really have a point guard to kind of set the table for him. He didn't play great like McHale did when they got there after the Durant deal. So I don't know. I agree. It's very situation dependent. I have another wing here to keep us going. Also, Chris, you were right. It should have been the Haters Guide to NBA free agency, but I just felt.
I did pitch that.
The nature of that felt uncomfortable to me.
Wow. I mean, look, I am pro, like, let's be optimistic in life. I think having positive outlook on life and trying to be what you want to be, like, see in the world is a good thing. But sometimes you just got to be like, is some team really going to give D'Angelo Russell like a stupid amount of money for something?
Maybe that's like really like. Maybe that's what you want to see in the world: more responsible spending.
I like that. I like that for D'Angelo Russell and his family. I don't like that for the team that has to like give him that money.
Yeah. Well, all right. I have a negative one, so that was why I.
Let's keep it going.
Agreed with you there, Chris. Dylan Brooks.
Oh boy.
Ooh, and I had him on my undervalued.
Really? Okay, so I will admit part of this is very much directed toward his fit in Houston.
Wes actually really likes to poke bears and like hit people in the nuts. That's actually a big part of Wes.
Did spend some time in Northern California, so maybe you had some run-ins with bears. I'm not sure.
Tried to stay away from him.
All right, so again, it's like it's a little bit about the Rockets specifically here. I don't think there's no team where I would like Dylan Brooks, or no price. Like if he goes to a good team on the mid-level, I'm not going to sit here and throw a fit about it. But if he goes to the Rockets or one of these other teams with cap space, I do think it would be a mistake. I agree. He's like legitimately one of the most impactful wing defenders in the NBA. Like no matter how you kind of slice it up, all the stats, watch the team, it's pretty clear. Like yeah, he didn't contain LeBron James. Add him to the list, right? And the Memphis defense has been better. An elite Memphis defense, mind you, not just like a mediocre team that gets better when he's out there. They've been substantially better whenever he's on the court on defense. But he got pretty great shots with the Grizzlies and still couldn't make them. And I just feel like if he goes to a team like Houston or any kind of honestly, even the Cavs, I wouldn't be positive saying that the team is better when he's on the court, because I think the offense has the chance to be such a way down, to just weigh the team down so badly that it kind of cancels out what the defense is. If you're a team that needs a 3-and-D wing, like a real one, Dillon Brooks isn't going to be that for you. And so he needs to go to a situation that he can really sort of be a specialty player, a specialist guy that just is there to defend. And if you can provide that for him and you're not paying him too much, great. But it doesn't sound like he's going to go to a place where that's the case. And you throw in the fact that he just got out of a young team with some culture questions where he wasn't thought to be a very good fit for that. You're going to tell me he's going to go to Houston and they need to get their stuff figured out and he's going to work out there? That would worry me.
I'll give you the case. You kind of laid out the positive case for Dillon Brooks. He's an all NBA level defender. And I like guys that I know are going to walk in and do something right away. Like, that is something that I know I'm getting from Dillon Brooks right away. You're right. I think it would be kind of silly for Houston to spend a bunch of money on him. He's not really in their age range. I don't know what their age range is. It kind of feels like to me Dillon Brooks might have been more of an option for them if they also got James Harden or if they also get Fred VanVleet. Like, then it starts to make a little bit of sense. I'd be curious to see if they don't get either of those guys, if they still spend the money. They're one of those teams that kind of have to spend money somewhere, and so maybe it is just a Dillon Brooks. Although I would hesitate to bring Dillon Brooks onto another young team and just kind of let him do what he did in Memphis, which is kind of have a louder voice than he probably should. But put him on a veteran team with an established hierarchy. I really like what he could do. I did with like the Kyle Kuzma deal, right? Where, all right, sign the deal. Fast forward in your brain a year. What do you think about that contract? I think there's a world where if Dillon Brooks signs in the right place, fast forward a year, it's like, wow, that Memphis thing, that situation was way worse than we even knew. All the John Morant stuff, the Dillon Brooks stuff, like it was just sort of like this flammable thing that with all these personalities that just combusted. He's on a better team, a better situation with more shooting around him, and he's just playing his role. And, I've talked with Dillon Brooks a few times. I think he's a really intelligent basketball player. I think he's just like a guy that's going to make it work. I think the three-point shot is going to turn around. It's not ever going to be elite, but I think it's going to be better than it was last year and maybe the year before that. So I would sign him. My sneaky Dillon Brooks team is the Sacramento Kings. I love that fit for him. I love that fit for the Kings. They have enough shooting that you could put on the floor with them. I think that he's a decent cutter who can get better playing with a guy like Sabonis. And I think he would give them the kind of tough defender that they're looking for. He would sort of immediately elevate that defense. And if you're looking for a player that's not Draymond Green, because he's probably going to re-sign with Golden State, and is more in your sort of age range, which Dillon Brooks is in the same age range as Sabonis and De'Aaron Fox. I don't know. I like that fit for Sacramento.
I hadn't thought of that, Wes, and now that you're saying that, I do kind of like that fit much better than the Houston one. And it's also because I would trust Mike Brown to handle Dillon Brooks.